Hi, this is A.J. Bingham, and I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Regions Financial Corporation. Regions is a different kind of bank with branches serving Central Texas from Austin to San Antonio and the Rio Grande Valley. Regions can assist your firm with its M&A and investment banking needs, as well as specialty finance in the technology, healthcare, defense, and aerospace sectors. Learn more about Regions at www.regions.com, and you can find more information in the episode notes. Now on with the show.
Welcome to the BG Podcast, conversations at the intersection of business, community, and public policy from the Austin Metro and around Texas. You can find this episode and prior recordings at www.binghamgp.com/podcast and on iTunes and Google Play.
Hello and welcome to the BG Podcast. My name is A.J. Bingham, CEO of Bingham Group, and our guests today are Jason Redfern, Parking Enterprise Manager, and Jacob Culberson, Mobility Services Division Manager with Austin Transportation Department. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, we've had several of your colleagues on before talking about different aspects of micromobility, and that's everything from scooter share to dockless bikes. And today we're going to get an update from Jason and Jacob on what's been going on in the micromobility world in Austin since council had postponed an ordinance that would have created a regulatory framework around micromobility at their May 23rd council meeting of this year. So before we get to that, I want to get just an introduction from both of y'all, and then kind of make a deeper dive in what your roles entail and then as it relates to micromobility.
Sure. So I'm Jason Redfern. I'm the city's Parking Enterprise Manager. And so I'm over the entire parking enterprise. There are 3 different sections with our parking enterprise. There's mobility services, there's parking enforcement, and then our infrastructure operations or the metering both on and off street. And so I'm the manager over the entire parking enterprise as a whole.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm Jacob Culberson. I'm the Mobility Services Division Manager. I work for Jason in the Parking Enterprise Division. And I license all rides for hire in the city of Austin, so taxi cabs, limousines, and even now, infamously, the scooters.
Oh, so parking, I mean, Joe, you cover a lot of very popular topics in Austin, I think, for the last few years.
Sure.
Well, good. And so just, again, picking up, can y'all just give a high-level overview of what occurred at council on the May 23rd?
Sure.
This is around item 58.
Right.
And what passed then, and then what was, again, decided to postpone, and why that happened?
Sure. So an item that did pass was the definition and use is what we've been calling it. So people who ride micromobility devices or shared bicycles have a set of regulations that they now must abide by when they ride these devices. It was the old bike ordinance, but we added micromobility devices to that ordinance. And it's common sense stuff like you can't ride against traffic, you've got to obey all traffic laws, that type of thing.
No shared scooter rides.
Well, so that's the thing is we made sure to say in the ordinance revision that if the scooter or device is equipped for 2 riders, then we would want them to be able to do that. So we didn't say no double riding. We said something like you can't be against the way that the device has been manufactured. So if it's been manufactured for one person to ride it, then we would only want one person to ride it. But there are new innovations and people come out with different ways of conveyance, and there could be dual rider devices come up in the future, and we didn't want to preclude anybody from using those types of devices.
Yeah, I know. Actually, speaking of kind of newer devices, there was recently one of the scooter share companies released new scooters on the east side of Austin.
Absolutely.
I believe with thicker tires, right?
Yes,
Because I mean, if people don't know, typically these scooters aren't meant for road use.
Yeah.
At least parts of road use.
I mean, they're all supposed to be designed for road use, but they've got smaller wheels than like a bicycle does. But the Lime scooters came out with larger tires, shocks on the front, a better display so that people can read it when they're driving their device. So we're excited to see the different companies and the innovations that they're making to improve the technology and the devices that people are riding. It only enhances safety. And we're excited that Lime released that. I think it's their version 3 now, I think is what it is. We're excited to see what else comes up. I want to see a company come in with 2 wheels on the front and a single wheel on the back, and which looks a bit more stable. And so we're excited about.
And that could possibly start parking itself as well, and that's kind of exciting as well. these automated scooters that may be able to, in the very near future, be able to park themselves. So
What do you mean by that? I have an idea in my mind what that means.
So just like a Roomba
Yeah.
finds its way to its charging bank, these scooters have the ability to do that as well.
Okay.
So pretty
Sensors
interesting
and-
stuff,
yeah.
sensors and stuff. And so any new innovation that comes through by way of scooters, they come to my office for an inspection, and we inspect and check the certifications, laboratory certifications, and then permit them to be released.
I'm just curious, have you seen that self-parking or at least self-docking model in other markets currently being tested or otherwise, or
This
just in
is-
lab kind of situations?
It looks conceptual at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they show a video of one maneuvering, and it's different angles of the camera, and it's avoiding things and all
Yeah.
that. So it seems a bit conceptual, but that's just an example of things that will come in the future. We don't know how soon,
Yeah.
but we know that exciting things in the transportation business are going to happen.
Well, kind of related to this, but you look at those the company in Boston, like Boston Dynamics, and all the different robots they put out, right? So if they have one that can just bipedal, like and move around. I mean, essentially, keeping up, it's not a far leap.
Yeah,
from
well,
this, but
one of the more
less
interesting
similar.
ones that I've seen, very similar to the Boston Dynamics robot, is the Ford Motor Company automated vehicle, which delivers a human-type robot or human-shaped robot to deliver a package straight to your door. Very
Read
interesting
about
stuff.
that. Yeah.
So to kind of, I guess, to get us back to the actions that council took, so that was the 12-2 was the modification for that, and that was an overwhelming support for, we have to do something to provide better regulations for people who ride the devices. But there were concerns about, we took a franchise model forward to the city council members. There were concerns from their constituents that the implementing a franchise system may have a negative effect, an unintended consequence. It could potentially stifle innovation. Franchise holders, there's a limit to them. Whatever limit, we could set 20 franchise holders, but let's say number 21 has the best, greatest thing ever. There was concern that we were going to limit the market and maybe exclude the city of Austin from achieving a great transportation solution that hadn't been thought of yet. And so city council members took a pause and said, we really need to step back and think about unintended consequences. And so currently, city staff, we're working with our law department, and we are trying to find the best mechanism that gives staff and council enough maneuverability so that we can address things that are changing in the market so quickly. We know that, they were dropped off in 2018.
What you think, right? I mean,
Way back when, right?
It seems like it's been longer than that,
No,
right?
right,
Because it's
yeah.
just ubiquitous everywhere you
Exactly.
go.
Yeah. So way back in 2018, and now here we are. We've hit 6 million miles traveled on dockless. That is
And just
fantastic.
under 2 years.
And this is just not a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so by April of next year, who knows how many miles we'll have traveled, especially when you plug in South by Southwest's numbers into the dockless usage.
Probably
for
ACL
next
too.
year.
ACL for both weekends.
Exactly.
And the rest of that whole span of week, like that Friday to that Sunday.
There'll be 2 weekends in ACL. That'll happen as well.
Yep.
So we know there's going to be high usage, and we are seeing innovations and technology that will maybe blow some people's minds in the future, and we just want to be able to make sure that we can maneuver with technology, we can work with technology providers, we can pivot and make sure that we are letting the private industry do what they do really well and try to stay out of the way of private industry, but still provide that regulatory framework where we can regulate if something comes up that we need to regulate.
Yeah, our goals are very simple with the regulation for what we want is to be able to, number one, the scooter companies or micromobility to pay for its own regulation, but also to help with capital improvements, new bike lanes, improved bike lanes, protected bike lanes out in the infrastructure in the city. So those are our goals. How we do that is what we are now designing and working with our law department to figure out a good way to deliver that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I mean, just looking at our other major markets in in Texas rather, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. What are you seeing out of those markets in terms of their if they have any structure in place? I mean, or is it permitting or a permit structure, or is it more on the franchise model?
So we were, I believe, one of the only cities to try a franchise model with dockless. We've not heard of any other municipalities in any of the states try a franchise model. And so I think we were a bit ahead of our time in that thinking, a bit ahead of ourselves maybe. So I know that San Antonio has more of a permitting. They had a pilot program that was launched. I don't believe that in Houston that they have any permitting mechanisms identified yet, because I think that there are things in the political arena that are happening that need to happen first before they go into some type of model. And so Dallas, I'm not entirely sure. I think they have like a permitting process. They at first had allowed just the companies to come in and ramp up and do what
the bike side. That was
a little bit of a saturation issue.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
and so I think they've dialed that back and are working on how to better control that. But I don't believe that they had a franchise mechanism. It was more of a permitting or operating authority of some sort.
Yeah, and none of the other cities in Texas that we know of have seen the successes that we've had with the dockless mobility program or the micromobility that we've had, or scooters in general. And even nationwide, companies are telling us that we're kind of the tip of the spear. We're really a great place to try. I mean, we kind of have an open market here, and a great place for them to see how things work with minimal restriction and the ability to transport people all over the city.
Gotcha. And beyond the development, the framework. I mean, I guess you have a rough timeline for that. I know these things can always shift.
Right.
Given, for those who don't know, Austin's right now in the middle of revising or rewriting our land development code, which takes a lot of. I mean, people realize staff bandwidth. I mean, Anik, who's been on the show previously with the strategic mobility plan, is now helping with code with the LEC. I want to say that word. I will not say because the land development code rewrite, because she almost got after with that. But again, like staff, gets shifted and moved around based on some. I mean, all higher level needs of the city, but just you have a rough idea for when you're looking to have some framework come out at all.
We're looking at the beginning or middle of October is what we would shoot for. We have internal constraints in our own processes and procedures. We like to have things ready and posted within 6 weeks before the actual council date. And to be honest, we're still having discussions internally about we want to make sure that the mechanism we choose is it's a win-win for everybody. And those are some of the discussions that are still happening. So I would tell you the beginning or mid-October is what we would shoot for. In government speak, that may be more like the beginning of November, perhaps. But so we want to come to council with a recommendation before the end of the fiscal year, or the end of the calendar year, excuse me. And we're having budget hearings right now, and so that's taking up a lot of council's time as well. So to provide you a good answer is before the end of this calendar year, we would like to have something.
That's fair. That's fair, given there are some. I mean, the budget being kind of the looming thing for everyone right now.
Absolutely.
What are the trends? So you mentioned to get the self-parking potential models. Are you seeing what are more immediate trends you're seeing in the micromobility space that aren't in Austin yet, but maybe are national peer markets that are interesting to y'all?
Well, we're hoping on bringing in some good pilots to run. One of those pilots is with a company that offers a docked solution for especially high density areas like our downtown core area. And it's a solar powered dock that charges scooters when customers dock the scooters into that dock, and then charges the companies a fee for that charging. So it kind of sets up autonomously and just kind of sits in a space in the right of way, which would usually be like a negative space. what we call a place where there's not high traffic volume, that kind of thing. And scooters can be parked there and charge, and so we're looking into that, and hopefully you'll see those out there soon. And they'll be slowly replacing those parking boxes that we've designed out on the right of way, which we've kind of delineated with paint or tape. So these will be out there in the right of way with their solar panels and everything. So it's good. I think it's a great thing coming our way.
Very good. And so for companies who are interested in piloting beyond the actual scooters themselves or other dockless mobility technologies, what's the process for that, right? So I'm a company from Portland or wherever else.
Sure.
I'm looking to come to Austin with my fantastic widget for they'll save the city, and who should I go to at ATD first, or what's that process like?
We have a smart mobility webpage, and you have to do something called an expression of interest. You have to you have to approach the city of Austin and say, hey, we've got this really great solution that we want to try. Explain what the benefits are, and we enter you into a process that we can do an evaluation. So we can look at what the service is. We make sure that there's maybe no conflict with contracts and city code or ordinances that would prohibit that from happening. And after that evaluation period, we try stuff out. We've got I think about 82 expressions of interest so far. That is 82 different, wonderful, technological, innovative things, not necessarily all driven by dockless. There are other things, but at least 82 different ideas of, hey, we want to test this, and we want to be the first to test it in Austin. And so that's, Austin's becoming this I want to say a laboratory, but it is definitely a great place to try stuff. And companies are figuring that out, and this process helps people kind of maneuver through that whole concept to testing, and then figure out if we want to purchase the solution or we want to innovate and take those results and do something else with it. But yeah, so the expression of interest is the best place to start off with us.
Yeah, and we definitely welcome innovation. So if anybody out there has bright ideas about how to handle dockless solutions and how to organize them and make Austin a better place involving them, then that'd be a good place to start.
All right, yeah, and we'll list that URL in our show notes too for those interested in that. Awesome. Well, Jason and Jacob, thank you for your time. We'd love to get you all back in here, post framework posting, and then maybe after it's adopted as well, just to kind of get a download on that once it goes to council. Cool. With that, though, thank you for your time, and I'll let you all get back to your very important jobs for the city. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hi, this is A.J. We want to again thank our sponsor, Regions Financial Corporation. With branches serving Central Texas from Austin to San Antonio and the Rio Grande Valley, Regions can help your firm with its M&A and investment banking needs, as well as specialty finance in technology, healthcare, defense, and aerospace sectors. Learn more about Regions in the episode notes.
Thank you for listening to today's BG Podcast. You can find this episode and prior recordings at www.binghamgp.com/podcast and iTunes and Google Play. Subscribe to stay current on future posts.